Hello folks, welcome to Quick Clip Tips. My name's Randy and this is coming to you from the house that never sleeps.
Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters!
Alright folks, welcome back to another version of Quick Clip Tips. I'm going to get this series started back again. I keep getting it started and it keeps losing out and getting wrapped up in repair work and forget about it. And before I know it, it's over with, past. So we're going to get back into it. Quick clip tips. You got to say that 10 times fast. You got to do it. Try it. 10 times fast. Quick clip tip. Do it! Alright, well we've talked about guitars. This is mostly about acoustic guitars, by the way, though it somewhat applies to some electric guitars too. Semi-hollow bodies and hollow bodies. And even electric guitars with rosewood fretboard or ebony fretboards. You know, something that's not a maple finished fretboard. Those you don't have to worry about so much. But we're mainly talking about acoustic guitars here, and this quick clip tip is mainly focusing on guitars that are over-humidified. Now we haven't talked about that very much. A whole lot of the same things can happen to your guitar if you over-humidify. That happens if it dries out, oddly enough. Some of them are different, you know, it depends on a lot of things. Whether the guitar has stress on it over the time it dried out or it got over-humidified. By stress, I mean whether it has strings on it or no strings, whether it's tuned up to pitch or loosens strings. There's a whole bunch of variables with this stuff. But, you know, basically a guitar that's over-humidified, okay, that means there's too much moisture content in the wood of that guitar. So what's that do? What's that tell us? Well, it swells that wood up. The body, everywhere that's open grain, like the inside of the guitar, that's how a means of controlling the moisture content of the wood of that guitar. And like I say, if it's over humidified, it swells up, because that wood to swell up. If you look from the peg head, the nut up the peg head, and look down the fretboard, usually on an over humidified guitar, you will see a ski jump there. It'll come down. You look down, right where the fretboard extension is on the top. There'll be like a ski jump, that we call it there. Usually a guitar that's dried out very bad, we call that fall away, and it goes down the other way right there in that area, right where the fretboard extension is, from the fretboard extension to the sound hole. But most of the time, if you look down the neck and you see it coming up like that, it's a pretty good sign you're about to over humidify your guitar. A lot of people will argue this, but usually they will belly up when they're over humidified. Like I said again, that wood swells up, and if it's under string tension when it is being over humidified, getting over humidified, usually it'll belly up because the wood swells. It's got those strings drawing on it all the time, but not always. I've seen guitars sunk in, the belly sunk in when it was over humidified. There again, it depends a lot on the stress of the strings, whether it's got any stress at all or not as it's being over humidified. So, you know, that's another thing to look at, the belly. It depends on the stress a great deal. A lot of times the finish well, this kind of depends on how fast or how slow it gets over humidified. But usually the finish on the guitar, on the top and the back, usually the top you notice first, will just shatter like glass, just shattered glass. You may not see that. You know, it's so fine, so minute. You got to hold that guitar up to a light and turn it at certain angles and look at it a certain way and hold your mouth just right. And I mean, it's very hard to see on some guitars, but you'll notice the entire finish on the entire top. Or, well, not the entire top. Sometimes it's in places like around the bridge or around the belly, wherever the wood moves the most. Now, another thing is, if you have a guitar that's very dried out and you humidify it really quickly, that can happen. The wood swells up, it starts to bow up and get bigger, the finish can't respond to that, and what do you get? The finish just shatters completely on the top of the guitar, and the back and the sides. And yes, I have notes here because I can't remember too good. It also, this over humidifying will cause braces to come loose. Your braces, you know, from that wood moving that much, if it's dried out and sunk in, and you humidify it and you pull that top back up, usually 90% of the time, a deformed body from being dried out will return back to its normal position when it's properly humidified. If it's, even that can cause braces to come loose, that much movement. But if it moves even more and forms a big belly from being over humidified, it can pull braces loose on the ends, usually one end or the other, or both ends. Sometimes the whole brace will come unglued, come off from the top. It can cause your bridge to pull up, cause your bridge to lift. You stick a piece of paper under there. Reason being because you got that belly hooving up there from too much moisture content in the wood, and the wood swells up, it bellies up. If it's under string tension, it'll belly up even more. Usually this is the case. Now, like I said, I've seen them over humidified and the belly would be sunk in, the opposite direction. That too can cause your bridge to pull up, especially if you got string tension on it while all this humidifying is going on. By the way, I recommend when you humidify your acoustic guitars, loosen the strings on it. Don't ever humidify it, especially if it's dry and you need to bring it up. 45 to 55% is what you want the moisture content in the wood to be. Now I've got videos on that. Put a hygrometer inside the guitar and leave it a couple days or 3. You're not going to get a reading of the moisture content in that wood if you leave that in there 12 hours or 8 hours or 24 hours. You're probably not going to get a good accurate reading of the moisture content in the wood. What you're going to read is the moisture content inside that box. I've got all kind of videos. I've preached it for years. Watch those videos. You want to read the moisture content of the wood. And they make tools that do that, instruments. Every time I turn the camera on, I can't think of it. They're expensive. A good one that's very accurate is pretty expensive. But, you can use a cheap one like that. Give it some time to work is the key. That's the key. Giving it, 48 hours or more than that to do its job, to read the moisture content or get an idea of the moisture content of the wood. Anyways, yeah, it can cause your bridge to pull up. It can cause your fretboard. I've seen the fretboard actually loosen from the neck. I got videos about that. It's an old, it's an arch top guitar. I can't remember the name, but I got videos showing you that guitar in that case was dried out. But like I said in the beginning of this video, a lot of problems that happen from over humidification are the same problems happen under humidification. Usually under humidified, dried out, you get a lot of cracks, in the body. Now, not so much, when it's over humidified. The body doesn't tend to crack. It can. I've seen that happen. But usually they only crack when they're drying out and not over humidified. But they swell up and get really big and heavy. I've got a Martin Dan Tominsky model custom guitar. It got under humidified over the time I was traveling a lot and playing, and I didn't really notice the difference in the weight of that guitar until I humidified it. It took me about 3 weeks to get the humidity levels up and to maintain 45 to 55%, to maintain the moisture content in the wood of the body of that guitar. 3 weeks. I kept notes of it, and I'd check it every day, every couple of days. But anyways, when I got through with it, I was amazed how much heavier the guitar was because it had all that water in it, Didn't realize that it dried out over time like that. You seen guitars, flat top guitars and acoustic guitars where the pick guard has shrunk. Well, it's not always the pick guard that has shrunk. Many times it's the body has got bigger. That wood has swelled up and it's got bigger, and the pick guard's stayed the same size. And you see them start to peel up around the edges of the pick guard. You know what I'm talking about? If you see a pick guard that's peeling, starting to, separate from the body around the edges, that don't always mean it's because that guitar's dried out. It could be over-humidified causing that to happen. Because those pick guards do not stretch. If anything, they do shrink. What else? Your bridge pins will get extremely tight. You're probably going to snap the head off of them trying to get them out. There again, the wood around the pins swells up. That hole gets tighter. Woo! And the pin stays the same size. Because whether it be bone, plastic, tusk, brass, whatever, the pin don't change size. The hole gets tighter because the wood swells up. You can't get your bridge pins out. Like I say, I've seen pins broken off where they try to pull the pins out and very aggressively try to pull them out. And the wood would swell up so much that you couldn't do it, You might get inside the guitar and drive them up through, but I wouldn't even do that. Best thing to do would be let the guitar give it time to dry out some. The body can come apart. I've seen that before. Sometimes the top and back will move so much, like if it's under humidified and you humidify it too fast or over humidify it, that top and back may swell up, particularly the top, so fast that the glue joints around, where it meets the top meets the sides and the back meets the sides, I've seen them come apart right around the binding. And another thing caused the binding to come loose. That wood swelling up so big, the binding cold. Usually you got to heat that binding to work with it. And if it can't move with that body, what's it do? Well, the glue comes loose, the binding comes loose, and then it starts to shrink, and you got a big deal. I got videos on that too. Look up a Martin binding repair, something like that. Have videos on it already. But those are just a few of many things that can happen. Mainly, like I say, to your acoustic, semi-electric, and hollow body, or semi-hollow body, and hollow body electric guitars. Those are just a few things off the top of my head that I thought of and wrote down right before making this video, just before making it. And there's a lot more things that can go wrong if you over-humidify. Just get you one of these. It's simple, man. Get one of these and get something to put over your sound hole or your F-holes and put that inside the guitar. Of course, you can't get that inside of a guitar with F-holes, but I don't know how you would read inside one of those. I never thought about that, reading the moisture content of the wood inside of a semi-hollow body or hollow body with F-holes. Got to think on that one. Anyways, acoustics is what we're mainly talking about here. Put you a hygrometer inside the guitar, cover the hole with something that will not absorb moisture, and leave that for 36, even 48 hours. Give it time to read, get a good reading, not just the moisture, humidification in the box, but the moisture content in the wood. 45 to 55% all of the time. Try to maintain that. A lot of guys say, well, I've had a guitar 40 years, I never humidified it, never did shit to it, never had any trouble. Well, yeah, it happens all the time. Obviously the guitar has been in the range of 45-50% most of its life, because if it has not, well, you can look through my old videos about being under humidified and dried out and see what happens. So I hope that helps. This quick clip tip get a little bit long. You didn't say it 10 times fast. You got to say it 10 times fast. Do it! And that'll make everything all right. So I think we went a little over what I meant to go. But anyways, cheers. I hope this helps on the ones that had many questions about guitars that were over humidified. Be careful. Don't over humidify them. 45 to 55%. Maintain that as close as you can, and you won't have any problems. I can almost promise you'll never have any problems. At least not with the bellies and bridges pulling up and glue joints coming apart and braces coming off and that kind of thing. Cheers. Thanks for watching. See you on another quick clip tip soon, or a repair probably. I don't know. Whatever it'll come up, it'll be good. Well, I don't know. It might not be too good. It'll probably be alright. Stay tuned and find out. Cheers. Thanks for watching.